else did I?
I wanted to ask you a question about. For me, anger is the hardest one. Like it's such an addicting thing. Being mad. It's like.
Do you know why?
I physically I don't know why.
Because it meets one of the things that I found, these 6 needs I told you about: certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, growth, contribution. Anytime your brain links up that doing something, believing something, or feeling something matches at least 3 of those needs, you'll become addicted to it. Whether it's a positive thing or a negative, you'll still be addicted to it. So when you're angry, how much certainty is coursing through your veins when you're totally pissed? 0 to 10.
Yeah.
It's a 10, right? When you're angry, how significant do you feel? People respond to you even if they don't like you because you're so damn intense, right? So you got a 10 of significance. And besides that, you got certainty and significance, but you're also connected to yourself. If somebody feels insignificant and you go through the hood of any major community and I come and put a gun to your head, how certain am I that you're going to respond to me right now on a 0 to 10? It's 100 on a 0 to 10. How significant am I in your life? I'm a 10, right? And in a sick way, we're connected. Because everything in your life depends on me in that moment. And it's always going to change. There's variety. So violence has been with us forever because it meets so many of our needs. And you don't have to have intelligence. You don't have to have money to use violence to get significance. And that's why it's around.
So how do you get through this?
You got to find better ways to meet people's needs. Like you don't stop doing something. You start doing something else that's more fulfilling. So if you smoke cigarettes, what needs do you meet? Certainty, you can be comfortable because you're stressed out. You take that breath. You're killing yourself, but it feels good right in the moment. What else do you get? You get a sense of connection with yourself. I'm giving myself a gift. It used to be you were significant if you smoke because you're a hard ass. You can't make me not do this. Well, met 3 or 4 needs. So if you stop smoking, most people start eating. Because eating allows them to have certainty. They're comfortable. Eating makes them feel a connection with themselves. Eating meets all those same needs. So unless you find a better way, there used to be I don't know if you're old enough to remember, there used to be a thing called the Schick Center for Stopping Smoking. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, God, no.
It was in California, so maybe you didn't hear it out here. But they had this incredible track record. They get people off smoking, and they went bankrupt. And the reason they went bankrupt is the ways got people to stop smoking is they put electrodes on your face and your neck, and they have you light a cigarette, and they zap the shit out of you.
Oh, wow.
And it worked. But the reason they went bankrupt is people stopped smoking, and they started eating and getting fat, and so they were pissed off at the system, and the whole thing blew up, right? So you have to meet the needs of the old behavior in a better way. That's how you get lasting change.
So how do you get past the fact that what Jimmy was talking about?
The anger?
Yeah. How do you get past that?
Because you start to feel it moving. It's
exactly
like
right.
that
But
physical thing.
You've gotten. I used to do this all the time myself, so I can totally relate. You get. For whatever starts triggering you, once you get in that state of being angry a regular time, it's easier to get there. And after a while, you're wired to be angry. So what I do is every morning I have a process called priming. And what I do is I realize that the 2 emotions that screw people up the most are anger and fear. When you're afraid, you don't do what you need to do. When you're angry, it just shuts you down. And the antidote is one emotion, and that's gratitude, as corny as it sounds, because you can't be angry and grateful simultaneously. You can't be fearful and grateful simultaneously. So I do this process where I change my body. I just do this 10 minutes every day. I did this morning, 5 a.m. It's insane, but it's only 10 minutes. So my deal with myself is if you don't have 10 minutes for yourself, you don't have a life. And I do this radical change in my body, and I take 3 minutes, and all I do is think of 3 things that I'm really grateful for. And I make one of them something simple, like my child's smile on his face, my son, let's say our daughter, or the wind on my hair, something like that. Not just like, oh, I just made $1 billion, And
Did you just casually say that?
That's an exaggeration.
Okay.
But the bottom line is what I do is I see it, I feel it, I bring it in my body. So it's like, remember I said most people are, wired for frustration or anger, and they got a dirt road to happiness. I wire myself to gratitude, and by not going into the anger so much, it becomes a dirt road to happiness. So you got to break the pattern. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's true of good things. Like if you don't, faith unused doesn't grow, it shrinks. Passion unexpressed gets less. Anger unexpressed will weaken, but you need an alternative, and you need to wire yourself. And it would probably take you 10 minutes a day if you really wanted to. But my bet is you kind of want to and you kind of don't, because the anger also gives you a sense of power, a sense of significance, a sense of certainty. You may not like the impact, but you like other aspects of it. That's why
it's
when people don't change, it's because it meets some of their needs, but not all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when you're split. If it's really bad, you just stop. If it's really good, you keep doing it. It's that mixed emotion that keeps people from changing.
See, I always felt like if I got rid of my anger, it would affect my stand-up, because that's where most of my jokes come from being angry. And if I lost that, then I would have nothing to write about.
Well, it's interesting. Something you might want to consider. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's worth you considering, because I did this with myself. anger what drove me in the beginning. You can only imagine. Like, I'm going to show my mom, and no one's going to do this to me again. I'm not going to let anybody be done like this. That was my initial. But today, I have 100 million times more resources. I do more with my pinky than it used to take 24 hours a day. And so today, it's not anger-driven, and I don't need the anger. I used to believe I would lose my power, like Samson getting his haircut, you know? And what I found, I bet the same is true with you, my friend, is my bet is you don't have to have the anger. You can still use the anger. But I bet you have so much talent, skill, and history now that it's really, that's just where your origins are. So it's like an athlete, you know, they wear the same jockstrap, you know, because they won 5 games in a row. They keep on wearing the same thing. It's like we want to keep doing things, but it's really a myth. It's where you started. It's not who you are today. And I don't know that for sure about you, but it would be an educated guess based on my history that belief system will make you have to become engaged and have the suffering of anger, because there's suffering. Anytime you're not in a beautiful state, whether it's generous or creative or driven or hungry or playful or fun or crazy or grateful, the only other states you can be are suffering states, and anger is a suffering state. Because you're not angry because your life is beautiful, right? You're angry because there's something that's not right. So I still see injustice, but I don't have the anger about it. I just have a beautiful state about it because I just go, you know what? This is part of the process. My being angry is not going to change it. My being angry constricts everything in my body. And by the way, if you're angry just for 5 minutes, it takes 4 to 5 hours for that to get out of your biochemistry. That's the stacking effect that anger has in the body. It constricts the blood vessels. I mean, what it does to your body is pretty brutal. So I believe anger is a useful thing to use at times. But when we overuse any muscle, we get out of balance. You know, if you build a really strong bicep, then all of a sudden your neck hurts, your back hurts, lower back, right? Because you're out of balance. And anger overused is out of balance. And I know because I used to use it all the damn time.
So it takes 5 hours to go away physically?
4 to 5 hours. Before your entire biochemistry drops back.
So if you're pissed off right now, maybe around 1 this afternoon, you're finally going to start feeling better.
Seconds, but for about 4 or 5 minutes,
sure,
it'll stay with you for 4 or 5 hours.
Isn't that unbelievable?
But you know what's really cool? The opposite is also true, I discovered. If you will stack great experiences, like you don't look like, I had a guy that screwed me over in a business deal, and it was, you know, I was partners in the business. He uninvited me to my own event, and there was 10,000 people there. And then he told me not to come. Lawyers told me not to come. Okay, I'm going to sue him and go through this process. Then he didn't tell anybody I wasn't coming. So 10,000 people came to see me and 5 other speakers, but I was the main pole. And when I didn't show up, he told the media I just didn't show up when he uninvited me. So you can only imagine the rage that I had, right? And it's my identity. My brand is how I'm able to reach people, right? So I'm so angry. I'm so pissed off, and I got to go make this change. But it's like the 5th thing he's done, and that's when your brain gets hijacked. It's not what happens once. It happens again and again, right? And then all of a sudden, that anger is just out of control. And what I did is a little experiment with myself. I said, I got to get out of this state because it's not serving me, and I got to serve other people. How am I going to do this? I have a lot of ways to do it, but I thought, you know, how did I get in this state? I kept stacking all the things that, you know, when you get angry, you remember everything a person's ever done to screw you over.
You throw the whole kitchen sink.
Everything goes there.
That's ridiculous.
So I said, what I got to do is the opposite. I can't find that many good things with him because he's not a good guy. But let me think of anything in my life that has been magnificent, that's been sexy, that's been beautiful, that's been sacred. And what I did is just start bringing in memories, random memories, when I felt proud. I didn't first think of working with President Clinton. You know, I first thought of being one of the 10 Lords of Leaping in the first grade play. Shit like that pops in your head. And it's humorous, but I just kept thinking one after another for like 4 or 5 minutes. And then what happens is you end up feeling effing unbelievably passionate and alive for 4 or 5 hours, because the same thing happens if you stack good experiences, and it can be random.
Right.
It's not like an affirmation or some bullshit positive thinking. It's something that's really in you. It's a real memory that you're reactivating. And when you reactivate it, your biochemistry changes. So it's not this mental bullshit. It's a biochemical shift.